Welcome to Web Lizard Lab's CERT Lab. This is SC-500 practice questions, AI, agents, and Foundry security. You will work through 28 questions covering Microsoft Purview protections for artificial intelligence, agent identities and access, Microsoft Foundry security controls, governance, monitoring, and incident evidence. Listen for the data boundary, identity, control plane, runtime protection, and evidence source that decides each answer. You will hear each complete scenario and every answer choice. Multi-select questions state how many answers to select. Matching questions keep the full workspace visible. After the cue, lock in your answer. You will have 3 seconds before the answer appears. Pause whenever you want additional thinking time. Question 1. A security team reviews the default data risk assessment for SharePoint. Which statement correctly describes its coverage and cadence? Select one answer. Choice A. It continuously scans every SharePoint site and updates results in real time. Choice B. It runs only for sites that an administrator manually selects each week. Choice C. It runs weekly for the top 100 SharePoint sites based on usage. Choice D. It runs daily only for OneDrive locations selected for item-level scanning. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is C. It runs weekly for the top 100 SharePoint sites based on usage. C is correct. The default assessment automatically runs weekly for the top 100 SharePoint sites based on usage. It must not be interpreted as continuous, real-time, tenant-wide coverage. Question 2. A security team is starting a quarterly review in the current Microsoft Purview DSPM experience. The team must compare AI apps and agents across Microsoft and third-party environments and identify which ones show oversharing, exfiltration, or unusual access risk. Which capability should the team use first? Select one answer. Choice A. Microsoft Purview Audit, search for AI app and agent interaction events. Choice B. Microsoft Purview DSPM AI Observability dashboards for app and agent-specific risk metrics. Choice C. Microsoft Purview Activity Explorer for detailed AI prompt and response activity. Choice D. Microsoft Purview DSPM for AI Classic Reports for AI interaction trends. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. Microsoft Purview DSPM AI Observability Dashboards for app and agent-specific risk metrics. Current DSPM AI Observability provides dashboards and metrics that track app and agent-specific risks, including oversharing, exfiltration, and unusual access across Microsoft and third-party environments. Question 3. Copilot Studio is connected and real-time protection is configured. The Microsoft 365 connector then becomes disconnected. Which two outcomes should the security team expect for suspicious Copilot Studio activity? Select 2. Select all answers that apply. Choice A. Suspicious activity continues to be blocked during runtime. Choice B. Related alerts and incidents do not appear in the Defender portal. Choice C. Runtime protection stops evaluating Copilot Studio tool invocations. Choice D. Related alerts continue to appear, but incidents are suppressed. Lock in your answer. The correct answers are A and B. A. Suspicious activity continues to be blocked during runtime. B. Related alerts and incidents do not appear in the Defender portal. For Copilot Studio agents, disconnecting the Microsoft 365 connector does not stop runtime blocking. The loss is in Defender portal visibility. Related alerts and incidents do not appear. Therefore, A and B are the documented outcome pair. Question 4. An autonomous agent runs in cloud infrastructure without a signed-in user and obtains an app-only token as its agent identity. When the policy conditions are met, you must deny that identity access to a target resource. Which conditional access target and access control should you configure? Select one answer. Choice A, target the agent identity and require the device to be marked as compliant. Choice B, target the agent identity and configure block access. Choice C, target users and groups and require multi-factor authentication. Choice D, target the linked agent's user account and configure block access. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B, target the agent identity and configure block access. The app-only token is issued to the agent identity, so that identity is the policy subject. For agent identities, block access is the only available access control, because there is no interactive remediation path. Question 5. A sales agent performs a suspicious action by using Jordan's delegated permissions in an on-behalf of (OBO) flow. Defender XDR surfaces an agent threat alert, and the team compares it with Microsoft Entra ID protection risk. Which interpretation is correct? Select one answer. Choice A. Defender and ID protection both produce only offline detections, and the OBO risk is attributed to the agent. Choice B. Defender surfaces the agent alert in near real time. ID protection risky agent detections are offline, and the OBO risk is attributed to Jordan. Choice C. Defender surfaces the agent alert in near real time. ID protection risky agent detections are offline, and the OBO risk is attributed to the agent. Choice D. Defender produces only offline detections. ID protection produces near real-time OBO risk attributed to Jordan. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. Defender surfaces the agent alert in near real time. ID protection risky agent detections are offline, and the OBO risk is attributed to Jordan. Microsoft Defender surfaces AI agent detections as near real-time alerts. ID protection risky agent detections are offline, and risky OBO activity is attributed to the user whose delegated permissions are used, in this case, Jordan, not to the agent. Question 6. A finance product manager must be accountable for an expense review agent's business purpose, lifecycle decisions, and access reviews. Which designation should you assign to the product manager on the agent identity? Select one answer. Choice A, owner. Choice B, sponsor. Choice C, agent ID administrator. Choice D, agent blueprint principal owner. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B, sponsor. B is correct. Sponsors are business owners accountable for an agent's purpose, lifecycle decisions, and access reviews. Those responsibilities exactly match the product manager's assignment. Question 7. A company has two Microsoft Foundry projects, Alpha and Beta. The projects currently belong to the same Foundry resource. A governance requirement states that Alpha and Beta must not share an AI gateway or its underlying API management instance. Which design meets the requirement? Select one answer. Choice A. Enable AI Gateway once in the resource and create a separate API management product for each project. Choice B. Enable AI Gateway separately from Alpha and Beta while keeping both projects in the same resource. Choice C. Place Alpha and Beta in separate Foundry resources and enable AI Gateway for each resource. Choice D. Keep both projects in the resource and configure a different project token limit for each project. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is C. Place Alpha and Beta in separate Foundry resources and enable AI Gateway for each resource. AI Gateway is enabled at the Foundry resource level. Every project in a Foundry resource shares that gateway and its underlying API management instance. Therefore, separating the projects into different Foundry resources and enabling AI Gateway in each resource establishes the required gateway boundary. Question 8. An organization deploys an Azure OpenAI text workload in a commercial Azure subscription. The security administrator opens Microsoft Defender for Cloud, selects Environment Settings, and selects the subscription. Which action enables Defender for AI services for that subscription? Select one answer. Choice A. On the Defender Plans page, toggle AI Services to On. Choice B. Disable user prompt evidence for the AI workload. Choice C. Configure Defender for Cloud to scan image tokens for the workload. Choice D. Connect the workload through a connected AWS account. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is A. On the Defender Plans page, toggle AI Services to On. The subscription-level enablement action is to turn on AI services on the Defender Plans page for the selected subscription. Question 9. A Foundry Agent Service agent can propose changes through an IT service management tool. You need a guardrail to inspect each proposed tool action and its submitted data, then prevent the action when risk is detected. Which control configuration should you use? Select one answer. Choice A. Tool Response Intervention Point with the Annotate and Block action. Choice B. Tool Call Intervention Point with the Annotate and Block action. Choice C. Tool Call Intervention Point with the Annotate action. Choice D. Output Intervention Point with the Annotate and Block action. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. Tool Call Intervention Point with the Annotate and Block action. B is correct. The Tool Call Intervention Point inspects the action and data an agent proposes to send to a tool. Annotate and Block is the supported agent action that can prevent the risky operation rather than merely label it. Question 10. A SOC lead uses the Data and AI Security Dashboard in Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Match each monitoring need to the dashboard section that best satisfies it. Each candidate can be used at most once. Match each target to the correct option. Items to match. T1. Prioritize resources that need the most immediate attention because critical issues affect them. T2. Review the number of prompts scanned and detected AI alerts organized by severity. Available choices. Choice A. Data Closer Look. Choice B. Top Issues. Choice C. AI Threat Protection. Choice D. Security Alerts Page. Lock in your answer. The correct matches are: prioritize resources that need the most immediate attention because critical issues affect them. Choice B. Top Issues. Review the number of prompts scanned and detected AI alerts organized by severity. Choice C. AI Threat Protection. Top Issues is the prioritization surface for resources with critical issues requiring immediate attention, so T1 maps to B. AI Threat Protection summarizes prompts scanned and detected alerts sorted by severity, so T2 maps to C. Question 11. A Microsoft 365 administrator reviews a registry containing Microsoft agents, external partner-built agents, and agents owned and published by the organization. The administrator must filter by who owns and distributes each agent, regardless of where or how it was built. Which filter should be used? Select one answer. Choice A. Channel. Choice B. Platform. Choice C. Channel and platform together. Choice D. Publisher type. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is D. Publisher type. Publisher type identifies who owns and distributes an agent and distinguishes Microsoft, external partner, and internally owned agents. Question 12. A reviewer opens the Monitor tab for a SharePoint site in Microsoft Purview Data Security Posture Management. Which set of categories can the reviewer use to compare the site's sharing exposure? Select one answer. Choice A: owners, members, visitors, and pending access requests. Choice B: public teams, private teams, sensitivity labels, and managed devices. Choice C: site creators, inactive users, retention events, and inherited permissions. Choice D: anyone, everyone in the organization, specific people, and external. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is D: anyone, everyone in the organization, specific people, and external. D is correct. The Monitor tab reports items shared with anyone, everyone in the organization, specific people, and externally. These categories diagnose sharing exposure rather than site membership, device state, or retention activity. Question 13. In current Microsoft Purview DSPM, an investigator can see AI interaction events and a DLP rule match in Activity Explorer. The prompt and response text are not displayed. Review shows that the collection policy for these interactions does not have content capture selected. What should the investigator recommend? Select one answer. Choice A: move the investigation to DSPM for AI Classic so content is captured automatically. Choice B: grant every investigated user extract rights to all encrypted content. Choice C: enable Microsoft Purview auditing, but leave content capture cleared in the collection policy. Choice D: edit the collection policy and select content capture for AI interactions. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is D: edit the collection policy and select content capture for AI interactions. For collection policies, no prompt or response is displayed when content capture is not selected. Editing the collection policy to select content capture addresses the stated evidence visibility gap. Question 14. A security administrator turns on Copilot Studio real-time protection in Microsoft Defender. The Power Platform administrator completes onboarding with Microsoft Entra application App ID 1111. The Defender App ID field contains 2222, and the Copilot Studio step does not show connected. What should the security administrator do? Select one answer. Choice A: turn real-time protection off and then turn it on again. Choice B: enter App ID 1111 in Defender and then select Save. Choice C: create a custom rule scoped to the Copilot Studio agent. Choice D: wait 1 minute and then save App ID 2222 again. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. Enter App ID 1111 in Defender and then select Save. The Power Platform administrator must use the same App ID as the Microsoft Entra application, and that App ID must be entered and saved in Defender. App ID 1111 is the aligned value in the scenario, so saving it in Defender resolves the documented mismatch. You have completed 14 questions. Take a moment to reset your attention. In the remaining questions, keep separating data governance from runtime protection, app permissions from agent identity, preventive controls from monitoring evidence, and platform configuration from incident investigation. Question 15. Employees sign in to an agent application. To call a downstream Microsoft Entra secured resource, the agent uses the on behalf of flow to exchange the user context for a new delegated token scoped to that resource. Which assignment target should the conditional access policy use for this downstream access? Select one answer. Choice A: the agent identity blueprint from which the agent was created. Choice B: the agent identity used by the application. Choice C: the linked agent's user account. Choice D, the users or groups whose identities are the token subjects. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is D, the users or groups whose identities are the token subjects. In the stated on behalf of flow, the user is the token subject. Conditional access, therefore, targets the relevant users or groups for the downstream token exchange, rather than an agent identity. Question 16. Microsoft Defender XDR correlates an AI agent secrets leak alert into an incident. Before prioritizing response actions, which 2 insights should an analyst obtain from the incident graph to understand the potential attack in context? Select 2 answers. Select all answers that apply. Choice A, the relationships between the entities involved in the incident. Choice B, the agent's identity, platform, ownership, and configuration metadata. Choice C, the agent's tool invocations and data access activity. Choice D, the blast radius of the AI agent threat. Lock in your answer. The correct answers are A and D. A, the relationships between the entities involved in the incident. D, the blast radius of the AI agent threat. The incident graph is used to understand relationships between involved entities and the blast radius of an AI agent threat. These graph insights provide incident context before response prioritization. Question 17. A human resources agent schedules interviews for the recruiter who is currently signed in. The agent must manage only that recruiter's calendar and must not exceed the recruiter's own access. Which authorization approach should you use? Select one answer. Choice A, assign an Azure RBAC role to the agent at the recruiter's resource group scope. Choice B, assign a Microsoft Intra directory reader role to the agent identity. Choice C, grant a delegated Microsoft Graph calendar permission with user consent. Choice D, grant a Microsoft Graph application calendar permission with administrator consent. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is C. Grant a delegated Microsoft Graph calendar permission with user consent. C is correct. Delegated Microsoft Graph permissions are for an agent acting on behalf of a user. With interactive user consent, the agent cannot exceed the signed-in recruiter's access, so it can manage only that recruiter's calendar. Question 18. A Microsoft Foundry resource already has one AI gateway backed by API management. 2. Projects created before the gateway was enabled must begin using it. Each project must have an independent capacity ceiling. Which 2 actions should you take? Select 2, select all answers that apply. Choice A, wait for the gateway to enable both existing projects automatically. Choice B, add each existing project to the gateway from the gateway project list. Choice C, assign a separate gateway to each project within the same Foundry resource. Choice D, configure a token limit separately for each project on the shared gateway. Lock in your answer. The correct answers are B and D. B, add each existing project to the gateway from the gateway project list. D, configure a token limit separately for each project on the shared gateway. Existing projects are not enabled automatically. Each must be added manually to the resource level gateway. Projects in the resource share that gateway and its APIM instance, while per project token limits provide independent capacity ceilings. Therefore, B and D are required. Question 19. A regulated company has already enabled Defender for AI services for an Azure OpenAI text workload. Investigators must continue receiving threat detection, but prompt content must not appear in alerts. What should the security administrator do? Select one answer. Choice A, turn off the AI services plan for the subscription. Choice B, keep user prompt evidence enabled and submit image prompts instead. Choice C, disable user prompt evidence for the workload. Choice D, move the workload to an Azure government subscription. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is C, disable user prompt evidence for the workload. Disabling user prompt evidence masks prompt content in alerts, while Defender for Cloud continues analyzing prompts and responses for threat detection. Question 20. A procurement agent uses a model deployment whose guardrail scans violence at high severity for user input and output. You explicitly assign the agent a custom guardrail that scans violence at low severity for user input and output, but defines no violence controls for tool calls or tool responses. What is the effective behavior? Select one answer. Choice A. The model guardrail scans input and output at high severity, and neither tool stage is scanned. Choice B. Both the model guardrail at high and the agent guardrail at low scan input and output. Neither tool stage is scanned. Choice C. The agent guardrail scans all four stages at low severity because its input and output controls extend to tool activity. Choice D. The agent guardrail scans input and output at low severity, and neither tool stage is scanned for violence. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is D. The agent guardrail scans input and output at low severity, and neither tool stage is scanned for violence. An assigned agent guardrail fully overrides the underlying model guardrail. Because the agent guardrail has low controls only for user input and output, and has no violence controls for tool calls or responses, only input and output are scanned at low. The tool stages do not fall back to the model guardrail. Question 21. An Azure subscription is registered with the Microsoft.Security resource provider. An administrator has the required dashboard read permissions and the Security Explorer role. Defender CSPM, Defender for Storage, Defender for Databases, and Threat Protection for AI workloads are enabled. But the administrator still lacks full access to the Data and AI Security dashboard. Which configuration should the administrator check and enable? Select one answer. Choice A, the agentless scanning for machines extension in Defender CSPM. Choice B, Defender for Servers Plan 2 for the subscription. Choice C, the sensitive data discovery extension in Defender CSPM. Choice D, the Defender for Containers plan for the subscription. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is C, the sensitive data discovery extension in Defender CSPM. Full access to the Data and AI Security dashboard requires Defender CSPM and its sensitive data discovery extension, together with Defender for Storage, Defender for Databases, and Threat Protection for AI workloads. The scenario also satisfies the documented resource provider, permission, and role prerequisites. Among the displayed controls, the sensitive data discovery extension is therefore the remaining configuration to verify and enable. Question 22. In Microsoft 365 Admin Center, an administrator disables the Allowed Agent Types option for agents built by Microsoft. A user then opens the agent catalog and searches for a Microsoft-built agent. What experience should the administrator expect for that user? Select one answer. Choice A. The agent is hidden, but the user can install it from a direct link. Choice B. The agent remains visible, but the user cannot install it. Choice C. The agent is hidden and automatically uninstalled from every user. Choice D. The agent remains visible, and the user can still install it. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. The agent remains visible, but the user cannot install it. Microsoft-built agents are the documented visibility exception. They remain visible when their option is disabled, but users cannot install them. Question 23. A completed custom item-level SharePoint assessment lists a file as potentially overshared, even though the file already has a sensitivity label. Which finding explains why the file can still be listed? Select one answer. Choice A. The sensitivity label was applied before the assessment started. Choice B. The file has a sharing link for external or anonymous users. Choice C. The site owner differs from the file owner. Choice D. The site is not among the tenant's most used SharePoint sites. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. The file has a sharing link for external or anonymous users. B is correct. Item-level scanning identifies an item as potentially overshared when it has a sharing link for external or anonymous users. The scan separately shows the applied sensitivity label and owner, so being labeled does not negate the sharing link signal. Question 24. Contoso uses Microsoft Purview Data Security Posture Management, DSPM, to identify risks related to AI apps and agents. Match each risk identification task to the DSPM capability that provides the required evidence. Each option can be used no more than once. 2 options will not be used. Match each target to the correct option. Items to match. R1. Identify enterprise-wide patterns of AI agent oversharing, exfiltration, and unusual access across Microsoft and third-party environments. R2. Investigate the specific interactions with AI apps and agents that underlie a flagged pattern and support incident response. Available choices. Choice A. Endpoint Data Loss Prevention, DLP, policy. Choice B. View and extract usage rights. Choice C. DSPM AI observability dashboards and metrics. Choice D. Audit logs and Activity Explorer features. Lock in your answer. The correct matches are: identify enterprise-wide patterns of AI agent oversharing, exfiltration, and unusual access across Microsoft and third-party environments. Choice C. DSPM AI observability dashboards and metrics. Investigate the specific interactions with AI apps and agents that underlie a flagged pattern and support incident response. Choice D. Audit logs and Activity Explorer features. R1 maps to C because DSPM's dedicated dashboards and metrics monitor risks associated with AI apps and agents, while AI observability tracks agent-specific oversharing, exfiltration, and unusual access patterns across Microsoft and third-party environments. R2 maps to D because audit logs and Activity Explorer features track interactions with AI apps and agents for compliance investigations and incident response. Endpoint DLP and View plus Extract rights apply enforcement or content authorization controls. They are not the DSPM evidence surfaces requested by either target. Question 25. During a pilot, the default real-time protection rule records matching activity from refund agent as behaviors. The security team now has a high-confidence, unsafe refund action that must be stopped before its tool invocation executes, and enforcement must be limited to refund agent. What should the team configure? Select one answer. Choice A. Keep the default rule and use its audit behaviors to stop the action. Choice B. Create a custom rule scoped to refund agent that matches and blocks the action. Choice C. Disconnect the Microsoft 365 connector so the action is blocked without an alert. Choice D. Keep the default rule and add a hunting query for the recorded behavior. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is B. Create a custom rule scoped to refund agent that matches and blocks the action. The default rule audits matching activity without stopping it. Custom rules are the documented mechanism for blocking matching actions before execution and can be scoped to specific agents, so a refund agent scoped custom rule satisfies both requirements. Question 26. You must scope to conditional access policies for changing populations of agent identities. Policy 1 must automatically cover every current and future agent identity derived from Blueprint Finance. Policy 2 must automatically cover every current and future agent identity tagged data class equals restricted, including identities derived from other blueprints. Neither policy should target linked agent user accounts. Which two targeting actions should you use? Select two answers. Select all answers that apply. Choice A. Target Blueprint Finance in Policy 1. Choice B. Manually select the agent identities that currently derive from Blueprint Finance in Policy 1. Choice C. Target the custom security attribute data class equals restricted in Policy 2. Choice D. Target all agent users in Policy 2. Lock in your answer. The correct answers are A and C. A. Target Blueprint Finance in Policy 1. C. Target the custom security attribute data class equals restricted in Policy 2. Targeting Blueprint Finance automatically includes all current and future agent identities derived from it, and does not include their linked agent user accounts. Attribute-driven targeting automatically includes current and future agent identities matching data class equals restricted across the relevant blueprint populations. Together, these satisfy the two distinct dynamic fleet requirements. Question 27. A security operations team is investigating an existing Microsoft Defender XDR incident involving an AI agent. Before deciding which entities require response, an analyst must determine whether the incident scope extends beyond the entities named in the initial alert. Which analysis should the analyst perform? Select one answer. Choice A. Inspect the incident graph and investigation experience. Rank involved entities by alert count, and use relationship evidence only after setting the incident scope. Choice B. Inspect the incident graph and investigation experience. Review involved entities separately and exclude relationship evidence when setting the incident scope. Choice C. Inspect the incident graph and investigation experience. Confirm entities listed in the initial alert and limit relationship evidence to that predetermined incident scope. Choice D. Inspect the incident graph and investigation experience. Trace connections among involved entities and use the relationship context to determine the incident scope. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is D. Inspect the incident graph and investigation experience, trace connections among involved entities, and use the relationship context to determine the incident scope. Choice D uses the incident graph and investigation experience to trace relationships among involved entities. Microsoft identifies those relationships as part of the full context used to understand the blast radius of an AI agent threat, so they are evidence for determining the incident scope. Question 28. A company is deploying 200 regional support agents that need the same security group membership and OAuth application permission. Every assignment must be approved, auditable, and expire after 90 days. A sponsor must be able to request an extension that can trigger another approval. What should you implement? Select one answer. Choice A. Create an access package containing the resource roles and configure its policy for approval, expiration, and extension. Choice B. Grant the application permission directly to each agent identity and record an intended removal date. Choice C. Add each agent directly to the security group and use a periodic operations checklist for removal. Choice D. Place the permission on the agent identity blueprint so every new identity inherits a standing grant. Lock in your answer. The correct answer is A. Create an access package containing the resource roles and configure its policy for approval, expiration, and extension. A is correct. Microsoft Entra Entitlement Management Access Packages provide intentional, auditable, time-bound assignments and standardize the same access for many agents. The package policy can govern approval, expiration, and extension. A sponsor-requested extension can trigger a new approval cycle. You have completed all 28 questions in SC-500 practice questions, AI, agents, and Foundry security. Review the distinctions you missed, especially Microsoft Purview controls for artificial intelligence, agent identity and access, Foundry security, monitoring, governance, and investigation evidence. Thanks for practicing with Web Lizard Lab's CertLab.